So, good morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome to the Gameweek Navigators episode number 13. This is the review of game week number 2. Hope you all had a great game week and did not regret making moves like I did. Uh, Finished the game week at around 49 points. So, not a very great game week for me, but I hope everyone else had a good one. And let's just start with the review for the game week. So let's just start with the results for the game week. Not many surprises going into this game week, to be honest. We expected most of these results, except probably the Spurs and Man United game, where Spurs kept a clean sheet. Manchester United did not even score. And also probably the West Ham Chelsea game, where a lot of people were hot on Chelsea assets, but did not materialize as much as they had expected to. We will go into a deep dive and analyze their game week in the game week game in a bit, but of the results boards, these are the two results that were not expected. Rest were pretty much as per expected by most fans. Especially the Liverpool Bournemouth game was expected to be high scoring, but honestly, as a Liverpool fan, I felt that this is a fair result, and especially against a high pressing Areola team. So not many curveballs during this game week, but just the points were not there because the key assets that we had banked on may have not performed or just had an off day. Let's move on to the overachievers of this week. Uh, we have Solly March, Christopher Hammer, and Julian Alvarez. Uh, Solly March basically overperformed his XG with two goals by a net positive of 1.113. Both were fairly low XG chances that he converted. Uh, so not a lot to take away from that, but Brighton attack by itself never generates as high XGs. They are probably scoring low XG chances fairly often than what other teams do. Also, their ball progression and their movement in the box kind of facilitates low XG chances. So March this game week was one of the highest overperformers, followed by Hammer, who had a basic XG from that shot that he took from outside the box of 0.03, wonder goal, not something Turner could have saved. That a lot of people were banking this as a clean sheetable fixture, but unfortunately, a wonder goal could cause the clean sheet to go away. He overperformed his XG by 0.97. The only XG that he generated in this game was that wonder goal shot that he took. Even Julian Alvarez got a goal from a very fairly low XG of 0.11. So overperformed his XG by 0.87. Let's now move on to the underperformers of the week, the underachievers. First up is Bruno. Missed a big chance. The header should have been converted. It was a beautiful cross in from what I remember was Rashford. So a lot of double owners of Bruno Rashford were counting on him to finish that goal, but did not convert that. It's one of the weakest headers I've ever seen from Bruno Fernandes. Probably one of his weakest that he will be featuring. But the ball was right there, just did not keep his composure. Probably skied over the goal. Underperformed his overall XG by negative 1.38. That's a big chunk. So as usual, Bruno is dodging those chances, dodging those big hauls that we expect from him. And what is expected of Manchester United? We had predicted some similar XG to be accumulated, but more goals to come out of them. Ended up scoring no goals. We'll go in a deep dive on how their game went, but let's move on to Enzo. Enzo Fernandez missed a penalty, fairly weak penalty, not in any side of the goal towards the goalkeeper. Uh, underperformed his overall XG by minus 1.17. Expected him to score that penalty, especially him being, especially after finding out he's actually the penalty taker. At 5 million, he could have been one of the best assets going into the good fixture run that Chelsea has, but unfortunately, that could not be converted. Also, Jackson underperformed his XG by 0.84. Again, he runs the channel so well, but somewhere the finishing is lacking. So one to watch out for sure, but then needs to convert these chances for us to actually have faith in him. Uh, has been doing all the right things except finishing the goals. Let's move on to a recently concluded game, Palace vs Arsenal, 1-0 at the end. I think we have the wrong scoreline over here, but it's supposed to be 1-0. Arsenal won that from a penalty taken by Odegaard. Another curveball in this week. No one expected Odegaard to step up and take that penalty, with Saka taking a lot of previous season's penalties. Although he held the ball for a very long time, was expected to take the penalty, but then did not walk up for it. Was taken by Odegaard, and it was a fairly good penalty that he took. Uh, Few charts that I wanted to go around with y'all on this. If you see on the bottom, that is the attacking momentum. So clearly, Arsenal. So on the top is the home team, on the bottom is the away team. Clearly, Arsenal was ruling this game throughout till the Tomiyasu red card situation, and that's when Palace actually stepped up. And also, Arsenal took off their key attackers in Martinelli and brought in a few defensive-minded changes with Gabriel and Jorginho. Took off Saka late as well. Clearly game management from Arteta, but from the even from the average positioning, if you see on the right, the Arsenal's average positioning, you can see Martinelli and Saka fairly away from goal and not in their usual positions when Jesus plays with them. Also, the link up between Odegaard and Saka in this game was beautiful. They were sharing a good synergy between each other and kept on getting into dangerous positions. You mark off Saka, Odegaard was almost there in the box, trying taking those shots and did not connect or convert their chances. One beautiful save from Johnstone to deny a goal. But other than that, it was a fairly even game, with especially how Palace set up. If you see on the left, the average positioning would tell you how they were almost into a low block and trying to expose them from the wings, with Eze as well as Ayu taking those runs. uh, Edward was again a big facilitator. His movement actually helps Eze a lot, and also helps Ayu get into good positions. So all in all, to be honest, it was a good game, an evenly matched game. But it was all Arsenal going from the attacking point of view, and Palace sitting in a very low block, trying to fend off chances and trying to hit Arsenal on the counter. Saliba had a beautiful game again. That last tackle on Edward to almost being a single man against the goalkeeper situation. He made a mistake, but completely amended for that fairly quickly, and that was a world class tackle. So again, from an attacking point of view, we expect more of Arsenal. Total XG created by Arsenal in this game was around just 0.67 when compared to Crystal Palace's 0.83. So another game where Arsenal did not create enough XG, not the 3 XG team that they looked like at the end of the last season. Also, another game where they underperformed their XG. Another game where the team or where the opposition team's XG was higher from them, and yet they got a result. But so these are the marks of a champion team. Even though they're not getting those chances and or not getting to attacking positions, they're finding ways to win games. So that's a positive for Arsenal, if you ask me from my point of view. Let's move on to the West Ham Chelsea game. West Ham created a total XG of 1.8, Chelsea of 2.49. Final scoreline ended with West Ham winning the game 3-1. Again, on the top is the home team, West Ham, fairly low attacking input. What Moyes did was to pack the midfield up and asked Chelsea to do all the legwork and basically tire them out. It was going really well till Chukwuemeka's injury, and the second half it was a completely different team for the first 15-20 minutes till Chilwell came off, and then Caicedo came on, made a few big errors leading to two goals. One player that I would be watching out from West Ham this season would be James Ward-Prowse. He has beautiful delivery, and the first goal was testament to that. Took a brilliantly forwarded corner into the box, and Aguerd finished it. And this is going to be a thing that is going to happen fairly a lot of times in this season, from what I understand, because of the quality of delivery that James Ward-Prowse has and the amount of physicality that West Ham has on corners. They have players like Soucek, Zuma, Aguerd, all defensive stall like power horses as well as great in the air. They were a team that used to get a lot of goals from set pieces, and the delivery from West Ham this season with Ward-Prowse's delivery that's going to go up in the coming games. But other than that, Paqueta had a decent game, but it was mostly countering to what Chelsea was offering, and a lot of defensive mistakes leading to those goals. The first one as well, there was Gallagher's mistake. He left his man. First, he gave away the corner and then did not mark his man. It was a complete mismatch. Whoever decided to match him up with Aguerd was not in their right mind. It was a complete mismatch of jumping power in general. Gallagher is not that defensive force that would be able to take on a man that easily. So a lot of things in Chelsea which are positive, but a lot of negatives as well. They need to find goals. They do not have a out and out goal scorer, even though Jackson looks amazing. He never feels threatening enough to score a goal. He's running those channels. He's doing all the hard work, but just the finishing is lacking for now. Also, what was weird was taking Chilwell off for Mudrik, and then not having a clear plan how the attack is going to be curated. Sterling played out of his skin. He had a brilliant game. He was by far the best player on the pitch from both sides combined. Other than that, Antonio's goal, again, I would say that was more of a defensive mistake from Disasi. He should have cleared. He should have firstly cleared the ball. Secondly, should have tackled or closed down the striker. He gave him a lot of time and space, and Antonio basically took his opportunity and ran with it. Got a goal out of it. In the second half, you could see Bowen actually operating in that number 9 position after Antonio was taken off. So that is another thing that we discussed last week as well, and that is something that needs to be watched out for. Because he's a 7.0 midfielder out of position. If Antonio catches an injury, which he is very susceptible to, their backup striker is Ings, who's another injury-prone player, and the next one is Mubama, who I don't think Moyes trusts yet, or else would have given him some game time after all the game time in the preseason. And he was doing very fairly well in the preseason, but he hasn't shown the same confidence in him during the season in the first two games at least. Paqueta had a decent game, as I earlier mentioned. Defensively, West Ham still looked decent, but were fairly challenged by Chelsea's attack, and was always down to Chelsea's finishing. If it was a better finishing team, maybe a different scoreline would have been expected, especially after you generate 2.49 XG. You should at least be getting two goals out of it. They had the bulk of chances, but failed to capitalize. Another bandwagon that I see coming in the coming few game weeks is going to be Ariola. Looks like the first choice at at West Ham as of now. But Moyes has made it clear that he has two first number ones, like number one starting goalkeepers. So that is not certain as of now, but one to watch out for sure. If you have a goalkeeping dilemma, if you have someone like a Pickford or someone like a say a Flecken and you want to move off them, he could be a good option. Save that point five, utilize it in other positions. Not that money is going to be very important with how the pricing is, and especially how the 6.5 assets are performing, but still, zero point 0.5 banked could be used somewhere else if required. Let's move on to the next game, which is the Aston Villa Everton game. Completely destroyed Everton, Aston Villa, and talk about a comeback. This was one statement that Aston Villa had to put out after their dismal performance against Newcastle. Everything just went their way except for Watkins' way, unfortunately. Even if you see the attacking momentum, they were in complete control of the game. Never that we saw Everton having those big chances. Just converted, just created a 0.63 xg out of the entire game. Villa had 3 xg and ended the game in a 4-0 scoreline. Defensively also not looking very strong. Everton, Pickford did not have a decent game. I mean, it was not down to him all the time, though. He gave away that penalty. That was his biggest mistake in the game. Other than that, his defensive line clearly let him down many times. There were a lot of open spaces which were very well attacked by Buendia and Watkins. Watkins were always running the channels. Again, very unfortunate for him to not get a goal in this game. And the one player that really was the shining light for Aston Villa in this game was Leon Bailey. Came out with a goal and assist and looked very lively. Was basically up and down on Patterson's flank and kept on giving him a difficult game. Uh, Patterson never looked settled. I do not know what's the Coleman situation at Everton, but Patterson does not look like he is adjusting to Premier League life as we had expected him to. Uh, was so was defensively not the best. Even Michael Keane gave away a easy chance, bad first touch, ball goes behind him. Duran just making an entrance scores the goal. So it is a concern for Everton, even though their fixtures still look good. I could see a lot of managers giving him one more game, especially since it's a Wolves game, and post that just shipping him off to say an Ariola, or if they have money, maybe go to Onana or make a sideways move in Johnstone or a Flecken. Let's move on to the next game. Big game, Manchester City and Newcastle. Again, one of Foden's masterclasses, I would say. Had a beautiful game, created so many chances. Haaland just did not look like himself today. If, on that game day, especially, like he didn't. The chances that he got, he usually converts them, but something was just off. Something didn't look right. It's just one of those days where the ball does not come out of your feet as you expect it to. Especially with how Eddie Howe has set it up. He had completely packed his defense around Haaland. Did not want to give him any space. And whatever space Haaland had, he was utilizing, taking those shots from outside the box. Missed one shot from inside the box as well. The one person that I would like to highlight in this would be Julian Alvarez, as well as his partnership with Foden. They are creating very well, and that trio on the top is looking to gel now. Especially with the potential that Foden has. He created so many chances in this game. Had one chance as well, did not convert it unfortunately, but looked very lively and one of the best players on the pitch for City. Other than that, what's interesting from the average positions for City is where Akanji and Guardiola ended up at. They were almost in the midfield, helping out with balls and ball progression. And Grealish did what his role was, completely being that width carrier. But on the other side, he was supported by Walker on the right wing, taking up almost the winger position and moving the ball up and down and kept providing width on the right hand side. Uh, I have a question here from Will H. Says what to do with Stones. So the update that we have for Stones is that he will likely not feature till the international game week, till the international break. So that is going to be post game week 4. So in this situation, I would just sell him to another City asset if you want, if you still want to be in that defense, Ruben Diaz or Kyle Walker. To be honest, even a Gavardiol is not a bad option, especially if he's going to be in that left back position. But Pep does Pep things. You can never predict him, who is going to start and who's not going to start. But like going back to this game, Newcastle looked fairly tame in their attack. They just wanted to get a draw out of it, from what I could gauge from the game, and not a lot of chances that were created from them. The XG clearly says that even the attacking momentum, it was all City that was running the game and creating chance after chance. But unfortunately, Haaland on another day could have had a haul, but not this one, especially when he was going against Salah. So a lot of managers not very happy with that being the final outcome. But it is a game. At the end of the day, you have to hedge your bets in the right way, and if it comes off for you, it's gold. I mean, at 170% EO, backing against him was something I wouldn't do. But if I had Salah, maybe. But I did not have Salah in my consideration or my plans going into the season, so I had to stick out with Haaland. But honestly, Foden, Alvarez, and Haaland, that partnership is building up, and it looks like the one to go from City. The attacking triple up would be amazing, especially going into the next game facing Sheffield United. That is going to be one prime game where the attack, I would prefer the attack over the defense, even though Sheffield have no attacking threat as of now till what we have gauged. I would still go for the attack of City compared to defense of City, because there are too many options in there right now. Once Bernardo is back on the right wing, that is going to be one thing to consider, how Pep moves around Foden's place or Alvarez's place, because one of them is bound to lose them when Jeremy Doku comes in. But again, Pep does not throw people directly into the squad. He likes to get them into his philosophy of attack, and then that happens. So, for a short-term basis, at least till like game week 6, game week 7, I think this triple up would be one to watch out for. Let's move on to our next game, which was the Spurs and Manchester United game. I slightly hinted at the start about this game. Completely a game of two halves. If you see on the attacking momentum as well, it was very clear. First half was fairly dominated by Manchester United. Had two big chances, one from Rashford, one from Bruno. One of them being a offside position, but still, the Bruno one should have been converted. He had an opportunity of his lifetime to score over there, and he put it above the goal. Uh, what I loved about this game was Sar. His performance was really one to watch out for, and one that really impressed me, because his game positioning and his game sense was so astute. He kept on running the channels, also made those key passes. At the end, got his reward in scoring one of the two goals. The other goal being a scrappy shot taken by Davies, just ball bouncing over Martinez's legs and going into the goal. So what positives I would take from this game was how Spurs is still a very high attack team, even against a fairly uh, mid-block kind of Manchester United setup. They still created 1.39 xg, and in a big game like this, creating that was a big thing. And the good thing that I also noticed was Udogi's position. He's again getting into those half spaces between Son and Madison and the attacker, and looking fairly attacking. So one to watch out for, especially with what the fixtures are coming up for them. A big talking point out of this game was Madison. There were reports that he got injured at the end of the game, but completed the game and was seen going out on crutches. But I don't think so. That is going to be a major concern if he's completing the game. I think there was more of a precautionary thing taken by Spurs to just not aggravate whatever he has. From a United standpoint, again, their best player is playing through the center, where all of their attacks goes through the wings from Garnacho and from Anthony, and nobody is actually holding up play. Everyone's just going for the Hail Mary, trying to express themselves. There is a lot of lack of composure in that attack. Uh, Everything seems so direct. Why do you have to always progress through the wings? You need to find markers around you. You need to find your players around you. Build that synergy between the two of you all, and then move forward. Their attacking side is the left side, where Garnacho, you could see, is the highest placed average position wise. Even Shaw is not looking as involved as he looked like last season. It has to do with something with what Mount's positioning is in there and what his role is. His role is to be the ball progressor, which was taken up by Shaw last season, but this season completely coming down to him. But his ball progression hasn't been the best. I mean, Mount's ball progression hasn't been the best this season. It's still early days, and that attack is a work in progress. But one to watch out for if what we want to do with their assets, especially with assets like Bruno Fernandes being 8.5 and Rashford being 9. Shipping them out before a Nottingham Forest game does not look the best move. I would still give them another game to find out how they're building up and what they plan to do. Their best their best bet is honestly to go with Sancho in through the center, give him the false nine role, and get Rashford back in his natural position of the wing, where he was really good at last season. So let's see if that changes or they persist with Garnacho till Hoyland comes back. Once Hoyland come back, I feel Rashford will be a completely different asset. In this, he's not playing through his favorite position, and that clearly shows his movement isn't a number nine's movement. His movement is mostly drifting towards the center, towards the right, towards the left, but not through the center all the time. So that is going to be a big issue for that attack. Uh, Again, Spurs completely deserved to win this game. The second half especially. The handball shout was not a handball according to me, but then it's very controversial what is given and what is not given these days. So it is difficult to gauge what what is the right handball situation these days, especially if the one that Onana did last week was not given, but something similar that Pickford did this week was given. So there's a lot of double standards happening in the refereeing this season, and they need to sort that out. So because it just affects the game in such a way. The penalty at that position would completely swing the momentum towards Manchester United's favor, and we would have possibly a different game. The second half was completely dominated by Spurs, and they took their chances. So uh, all I would have to say on that is we need better refereeing standards. Let's move to the next game, Wolves versus Brighton. Another game where Wolves packed the midfield, but did not expect what Brighton would do. Brighton is a fairly direct team, and they utilize their left flank a lot. You could see Estepinian's position, you could see Mitoma's position. Even though it was all packed in the center, what Semedo managed to do against Garnacho, he could not do it against Mitoma because Mitoma is fairly more physical and fairly quicker with his feet when compared to Garnacho. Garnacho is still a good player, but he needs to physically be a little stronger when it comes to the Premier League standards. And I would say he's a better second half player than being a starter. But forgetting that, what Wolves did was the same situation that they set up against Manchester United, created that big block in the center and did not let any ball progress through the center. But what Brighton does is they love their direct one wing play. The ball is generally played out of defense towards either one of Estupinian or Mitoma, and they basically exploited the wings. So that led to a lot of chances, and the synergy between Estupinian and Mitoma were contributed to two goals where either assisted each other and scored the goals. Again, Wolves created the 2.14 xg. If you could see from the attacking momentum as well, not many big chances from Brighton side, but consistently there, and they know how to score those low xg chances, as I was earlier mentioning, with what March did as well. And major chunk of Wolves attack came around that 60-minute mark, where they had a header from a corner, which was ultimately then converted by Wong in the second play. So another game where they created more XG, but do not have a out and out finisher, which is also hurting them, similar to Chelsea's situation. The scoreline shows they just scored one goal out of 2.14 XG, and Brighton scored 2.22 out of 4. And that says volumes about their finishing when compared to Wolves. Also, good game for Mitoma, as well as for Estupinian, and one player that was on people's radars last season, but kind of did not feature a lot on people's radar this season has been March. He always has the high XG numbers, and always his expected data is very high when compared to Mitoma. But on an eye test point of view, you always find Mitoma to be a more spicier pick. But more often than not, you see March coming off with more points. Because he just gets in those positions, especially his link up with Enciso was brilliant. The way they were connecting each other. If it wasn't for Enciso's injury, I don't think so. He would have been taken off ultimately, and that would have contributed to possibly more goals coming in for Brighton. Other than that, honestly, Wolves' expected performance, we had after the last game, especially, we had better hopes from them. But again, they need to shore up that finishing. They need to find someone to find the ball in the net and not around the net. They create so many chances, but just don't have a proper finisher to finish them. They have been a similar team for the past 2 seasons ever since the Raul Jimenez injury happened. So one thing they need to look out for, as well as whenever you're playing a Wolves team, whenever your assets are playing a Wolves team, you can actually start them as your starting defenders, and just hope that they don't finish, because their finishing is usually not up to the mark. So I have Pickford, so that is the only reason I will be keeping him in the next game, because he has Wolves possibly going in the next game, and then we'll assess post that. Next game was the Liverpool Bournemouth game. Started off as a Liverpool fan, started off with a very difficult situation. The offside goal was in the first minute. Literally, was one that really shook me out of my sleep, and I was like, "What is happening?" Like, again, it's going to be the poorest defense that we expected, but this early into the game, again, fairly easy for Bournemouth to open them up. But then Liverpool calmed down. and set up in a better positions and set up in a better shape, which helped with the with how McAllister was playing, as well as the support he got from Soboslai and from Trent on the right hand side. That right hand side looks stacked, always looks very stacked. I mean, Trent, Soboslai, and Salah all coming through the same flank, creating so many chances for Diaz. So I personally feel Diaz is looking like one of the best picks from Liverpool. But now, since if you do not have Diaz, I would suggest you to hold on to him. Like, you could wait till the fixture swing comes. Again, this game, Mo got a penalty, missed it, hit the rebound. So a lot of questions have been asked over how, if Mo is going to be the taker going forward. I would still say yes, because he converted the rebound. But if he misses another one, I would have my doubts, because it is now it's been 3 and 3 that he has missed. So it's a little difficult to for Klopp as well to keep backing him. If other than that, if you look from a momentum build up, attacking momentum build up, you would see it was a all Liverpool game for the first half, except the starting few minutes where the Bournemouth actually scored the goal and then Liverpool got back in the game. So Buslai looked amazing again. Some might say it was a dive. I would say it was a very soft penalty. Uh, there was very minimal contact, to be honest, but there was contact, so you can't call it a dive, but it was a very soft penalty. Some other day, some other referee wouldn't have given it, but then it was fairly compensated for in the second half when McAllister was sent off and we saw the inclusion of Endo. Looked decent. Defensively, and looks like a workhorse. Looks like he can assure up that midfield. He can be the ball carrier as well as a defensive minded midfielder in that lineup, and can help with that defense, especially if Trent is constantly trying to get into the attacking spaces. Endo would be a good addition, and that will also free up McAllister to play in the midfield instead of us still trying to go with the Gakpo Jota combination. So I expect one of them to miss out going into the next game, because I think Endo will have a few training sessions, and would possibly start in the next game, especially if McAllister is out. It has been appealed by Liverpool, and if he is confirmed out, then we will still stick with the Jota Gakpo situation. But if his appeal is successful and the red card is overturned, I would still see one of them missing out. Mostly Gakpo did not look as efficient as he usually does. Jota again scored a tap in from a shot from Soboslai, so I think that would give him confidence. That would give Klopp confidence to go ahead with him. But as people say, Klopp loves Gakpo, so it's a toss up. To be honest, it's a very 50-50 situation. Uh, and most cases, I think the red card should be taken away and the appeal should be successful, because there was no real malice. He was actually trying to withdraw his feet from it. He went for the ball, did not look like an aggressive challenge, but refereeing, as I've been mentioning throughout the pod, has been substandard. This, especially this game week, and especially with the number of yellow cards that have been flying away, even the slightest of challenge could lead to a red card these days, because you might have been booked for dissent earlier, and then you have one bad tackle and you're off. So something needs to change from refereeing standards as well, and some clear guidance needs to go out to players as well. Say, hey, you need to stop dissenting to what you were dissenting to earlier. So there is that. Let's move on to the next game. Fulham versus Brentford. Fulham looked like the team with the bigger chances XG wise, but Brentford had a beautiful game. A lot of defensive mistakes as well. One penalty, one defensive mistake led to two goals out of the three. But I would say if Fulham is a team to attack right now, especially without Mitrovic. There is no one to hold up play for them attack wise, and they end up losing the ball fairly often. Especially with what if you see their setup as well, they are looking as a mid-block team, trying to attack but not getting too forward. So when compared to a Brentford, always they are going to create those 5 to 6 big chances per game, and then it comes down to quality of finishing. Most often than not, Wissa gets at the end of these chances, and he's a brilliant finisher. His XG numbers over the past have been great, and he looks like he's keeping up with it. And Bumo, another penalty, and 2 games, 2 penalties, and he got his third goal by in this game. So a lot has been made of Brentford's attack, but and how their fixtures are looking like. But I would still stick to them. They're still a good attack, and looks like this is going to continue. So if you have any Brentford assets, not the time to sell. I would look at actually buying a Bumo or a Visa if you do not have them. Defensively also they look fine, to be honest. So one to watch out for, one to purchase in the upcoming game weeks. Let's move on to the next game. Sheffield United versus Nottingham Forest. All Forest going into the first half. Second half, wonder goal, and it's 1-1 from Christopher Hammer. And then it was a slow grind from Nottingham. The one player that really impressed me in this game was actually, I would say two players that really impressed me in this game. Was one was Avinui, who always finds a way to be at the end of chances, and he's a astute finisher. He took his chance really well. The ball from Aurier as well was a beautiful cross into his path, and all he had to do was guide the ball in the right direction, which a lot of strikers fail to do. But he knows where the goal is, and he scored a beautiful header into the goal. Even the second goal was a beautiful cross from Serge Aurier, and Wood being the natural classic number 9 from the 90s that we would call, finished that goal as well. So ended up a good result for Forest. Uh, but what I would say is, even attacking momentum wise, Forest was really up at their game when compared to Sheffield. Sheffield looked toothless in attack, to be honest. If it wasn't down to the wonder goal, I don't think so they would have scored. They did not get fairly close to the goal. It was always down to Forest's mistakes that they were getting a chance. They never created much as such. So another team to attack. If your attack is playing against Sheffield United, go for it. And if your defense is playing against them, play them. It's almost a clean sheet, bankable fixture. What another player that really impressed me from Forest was Anthony Ilanga. The runs he's making is amazing, but there's a clear lack of communication between the midfield and him, because he's making those runs, but no one is passing in his direction. So that is also leading to him not giving you that output, and also he comes off in the second halves. He's not that starter yet, but one to surely watch out for when Forest fixtures turn better. He would be a good enabler at 5.0. Not a lot of assets in that bracket, so I would closely watch him, and if he turns out to be a starter on the left wing position, I would surely go for him. Especially with his movement, he's bound to be at the end of 1 or 2 goals in the coming few weeks. If it happens, I called it. So let's move on to a new segment that I've introduced in this week. I'm just calling it my Masala Picks because I am Nehal FPL Masala. So the first one I would say is Eddie Nketiah at 5.5, with Jeju's looking to be out till at least the international break. the next two fixtures are playable for Nketiah at that price point, 5.5, and a lot of us are looking at Jackson as our option. So these are like a few differential from the norm, not the usual picks that people are looking at, but could have the potential to score fairly high. Especially Nketiah playing in an Arsenal attack today as well looked like the most attacking player from their team. And if he's keeping his spot in that team, he's going to be one to watch out for, especially at that price point. With Fulham as his next game, from what I know. Especially, and then the next pick I would say is Julian Alvarez. As I had previously mentioned, that link up between the three of Foden, Haaland, and Alvarez will lead to a lot of chances being created, especially with City being City. They create a lot of XG anyways. So I would have a keen eye on him. I personally am looking at getting him in this week to play Sheffield United. Especially, I'm trying to target that one fixture a lot in this season. So he's going to be one player I'll be watching out for in the next game week. Uh, and I would also look at Visa, one player from Brentford who's going completely under the radar. He is getting those big chances, and as I had earlier mentioned, Brentford does create those 5 to 6 big chances every game, and Visa has good finishing abilities. So I would personally go for him and have him as my Brentford asset if you do not have Bumo and you do not have a midfield spot open. He is a good differential to have in your team. So that's about it from this stream. If you have any questions, you can just put it in the chat right now and be happy to answer them. I have one question from Afiq saying, should we wildcard now? I mean, Afiq, I do not know your team to be honest, but I would so the personal plan of mine is to wildcard around game week 8. That's how I have set up my team. So if you would send your team in, I would be in a better position to answer this question. But personally, with the way I have set it up, game week 8 looks like a major chunk of fixture changes and fixture turns. So I am looking at wildcard for then. But if you have the wildcard and if you have a lot of players, like for example, you have James and you have a lot of defensive issues going in, you don't have the right goalkeeper. For example, you have a Pickford or you have a James and a Gabriel in your team, and and also Stones. So that's clear wildcard territory for me. But other than that, I would try to hold on to it. Still a lot of data and a lot of information to be gained before we hit those wildcard buttons. I am one of those managers who like to take my time during the first few game weeks and then go for my wildcard because I have enough information on how the teams are set up and who is the primary target through attacks and how the teams are defensively set up. Like historically, some teams do better defensively, but when it comes down to current seasons, the form or some missing players could lead to a lot of changes in their system and their attacks and their defenses. So, with that being said, if you have major concerns, then only hit the wild card, or else I would just avoid hitting the wild card. As of now, that is all the questions I have. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to hit me up. I'll be here for another 2 minutes if any questions comes up. Other than that, what I would do if you have those two free transfers going into this week, just look at the weaknesses in your squad. If you have a Bruno, if you have a Rashford, just hold on to them. If you do not have a Madison, based off on what information we are going to get, based off on that, get him in. If you do not have Chelsea assets, you can get them in. Say a defender from Chelsea, especially with the next three fixtures being Luton, Bournemouth, and I think Sheffield United or Burnley, one of them. So those fixtures are primary like they look like clean sheet fixtures. So for Chelsea, so if you do not have a Chilwell, get Chilwell. If you do not have a budget for him, Colwell could help you out. Uh, or Disasi maybe looks like they are going to stick to this back three, but things will change, I think, if they are going to start Caicedo. I think they will move to a back four, and Disasi would be the likely one to miss out, since now they do not have Europe. Thiago Silva is fit enough to play one game per week. When we have the FA Cup or the League Cup games, that's when I see Thiago Silva losing his position. Other than that, I think Colwell and Silva will be their primary partnership, with Gusto on the right if James is not back fit, and Chilwell on the left. I see Caicedo being the base of the midfield at six, and probably Enzo and probably Gallagher being the eights, and then on the wings could be Mudrik and Jackson up top and Sterling on the right. So that looks like the likely team that I would see coming out of Chelsea in the next game. Uh, Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on FPL Masala on X/Twitter. And do leave us a like, do subscribe, click on the bell icon, do all the fancy stuff. If you like our content, if you like to get your questions answered, please ask them, and drop us a comment if you have any concerns or you want us to provide you with any changes or any specific data that you require. I would be happy to help you out in that situation. uh, and other than that, we will have our next episode on Wednesday, most probably, which is going to be Game Week 3 preview stream. And look out for that. Hit the bell icon. Possibly you'll get a notification, and you can jump on that and ask us a few questions, or any dilemmas or any news that you have, that you want to share with us, or any tips you want from our end. You can always feel free to ask us. Anyways, just signing out. Have a great rest of your day/night, and I'll see you next week.